Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Everybody Needs a Nudge. I'm in studio with Root Beer and another guest. Every week we try to get another guest, and we were lucky enough to have another guest sign on. Marc Glennon. Say hello, Marc.
Hello, everybody.
Marc's a little nervous, so just bear with him. I don't want to, he'll do fine. He'll do fine. But before we get into Marc, we got to go through sort of the segments here. And it's funny because we got a bunch of corrections from Luke's episode, but also picked up some corrections from the Pat Leahy episode. Oh. Yeah. But my guy got me the corrections late. So we got some listeners out there, Marc, that, because of my insistence that I'm usually always right, they're very quick to jump on the corrections.
I'm familiar with that, Dan. But I think I also have a correction of my own.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
All right. Well, let me do my corrections, and then I'll let you do your correction.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first correction that we have today is St. John's Prep, which is where Lukey went to school. So just so everybody understands the sort of the context here. Marc Glennon also knows Luke. Marc is a buddy of mine from Boston College. First guy I ever met at Boston College ever.
That's right. Was
Marc Glennon. So and we're still friends 46 years, not 46 years later, but at 46 years old. So I think Luke said that St. John's Prep was a Jesuit school. It is not. It is a Severian Brothers school. And what I didn't know is that the Severian Brothers, which is that's a high school, was its own, I don't know, what do they call those? Cults in the
sect?
Sect. Is it a sect?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Let's go with cult.
I don't know if we can go with cult.
Cult might be offensive.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So let's lay off the cult. We'll call it a sect of religious priests. It's a Severian Brothers school. I did a little research. Gordon College, remember we were wondering what that was named for? It's named for the Reverend A.J. Gordon, who was the pastor of the Clarendon Street Church in Boston in the late 1800s, in case anybody was wondering.
I was.
I know.
I stayed up every night thinking about it.
Do you believe that?
It's incredible.
It's incredible, right?
I feel enlightened.
So I told a story. So these two go back to Patty Leahy's broadcast or podcast. I told a story about an NHL guy whose father made him run behind the car or push the car, one of the two, if he played a bad game. And that guy was Nathan Gerby. Oh. Did you ever hear that story?
No, but you thought it was Johnny Gaudreau, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of cut from the same cloth, right?
Yeah.
Sort of the same type of player. And also, Pat Leahy was not the only player to wear number 83 in the NHL during that time. There was another guy from Czechoslovakia named Ales Hemsky who wore number 83. Wow. Yeah. So that's a correction.
Who wore it better?
Well, so at the risk of offending Patty, this guy Hemsky played for 14 seasons and had 572 points.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm going to say he wore it better. Sorry, Patty. I like you better, though, Pat, only because I don't know the other guy. But I do like you better. We were talking about teaching methods, and we'll get into, Marc and I have a very funny story about a class we took. I think it was senior year. But the teaching method where everybody sits around the table and it's an open dialogue between the students and the teachers and everybody else is called the Socratic method. Did you know that, Marc?
I did.
I almost called it the Hippocratic method. But that's the Hippocratic oath.
Correct.
That the doctors take.
Yeah, it's more medical.
Yeah, as opposed. So round table dialogue at school is called the Socratic teaching method. And it's supposed to get people to sort of open up. So that was a correction. I have a correction. Well, I have a question, and I got into this a little bit Friday night. So those are my corrections. Before we switch. Oh no, my last correction. Luke Howarth was never a roommate of mine.
No, we lived downstairs from you.
Yep. And then senior year, he didn't move in with us in the mod.
No.
I mean, he pretty much did, but he didn't. He didn't have a
Not technically.
He didn't have a bed there, but he spent an inordinate amount of hours at that place. But he was not on. He was not in the. He was not in our. So technically, we were never roommates. I want to make that correction. Soulmates, maybe,
Definitely.
but not roommates. Mark and I were actually roommates senior year, and you were actually direct roommates with Luke.
I had the privilege of being direct roommates with Luke junior year.
Yes, the year that we knew each other, and you lived below me, and you were direct roommates with Lukey, and then you and I moved in together senior year, but we weren't direct roommates. I had Brian Callery. You had who? Pat Murphy?
No, Brad Catania.
Oh, he was never there.
No, it was wonderful.
He was. You had a single pretty much.
I did.
Yeah, he was dating that girl that owned the Marlboro factory or something, right?
Yeah. What was her name? Amber?
Is that her name?
Cute.
Yeah. If my memory serves me.
So can I don't know if this is out of
Yeah,
line.
no,
but
jump right in.
I don't know if this is a correction, but you were discussing, I think it was with Pat about the Pat Leahy about the Titanic, and you were confused as to which direction the Titanic was going.
But I fixed that.
Did you?
Yeah.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, you didn't listen. So that's a tell by you because you didn't listen to the next episode.
Okay. Well.
I had it going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't you see how do you get that wrong?
I don't know. Well, her only reference to the Titanic, her being root beer, her only reference to the Titanic was that they were Irish jigging in the basement. That's
Best
all she
part.
knew.
Best part.
Yeah, 100% the best part.
Mhm.
That is a great part of the movie. So is that your correction?
Yeah, or more just surprise.
Yeah.
That was even
Of my ignorance?
A little bit.
Yeah.
You're a smart guy.
I know, but I must have. My sister was blowing me up for that. Doris was blowing me up.
I don't blame her.
I know. She's my number one fan. Although there might be, I got a little situation going on. We can talk about it.
Oh no.
Yeah, there might be a new number one fan.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super fan?
Yeah, super fan. Like started listening and was calling me and texting me while she's at the supermarket about how great the show is and the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
You know this person?
Yeah, very well. Yeah. Yep, I know her. That'd be even more amazing if I didn't know her. Right? Just some woman out of the blue. Hey, I'm listening to your show.
Stalker. Nice.
I definitely
We
need
made
that.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when you know you're famous.
Once you get the stalkers.
So what's going on in my life? All my kids are doing the same thing. You know, it gets a little monotonous, doesn't it? You know, it's like hockey, school, over and over again. But I had a little situation at the so Hank plays on a Friday night league hockey game and hockey team, and we went out to dinner after at the Chinese food, not Chinese, Mexican place, and I ordered a Dos Equis. How do you say that?
Dos
Equis?
Equis.
What did I say?
Dos Equis.
Yeah. They were like, got really mad at me at the restaurant.
Does that
They
pronunciation
almost-
mean something else?
I don't know. They almost didn't want to give me the beer. They're like, what do you want? I'm like, I'll have a Dos Equis. And they were like, what? I'm like, I'll have a Dos Equis. And I was like, you know, because I was like, I wasn't at the bar. I was so the bar seat, then I was behind, and I'm like leaning over. I'm like, have a Dos Equis. And they're looking at me like, we're not going to give you that because it doesn't exist.
You're like, brown bottle, lime.
Yeah, Dos Equis. But it's Dos Equis. Yeah.
It's 2 words. I think you were trying to make it sound like one
I wasn't
word.
trying to do anything except order a drink. Okay. They made it a thing. And everybody's laughing at me at the bar. And I'm like, what is so funny?
Because you obviously probably had a face going on too. when
Yeah.
you
I was probably like,
were
what is this? Telling a story over here. I'm like, I'll have a Dos Equis. And she was like, no, you can't have that. But I finally got it. It was good. But I just want to, so it's Dos Equis.
Dos Equis.
Dos Equis. Okay.
Dos Equis.
And then Saturday night, we were supposed to have a hockey game. So Marc's son plays for the team, and Marc coaches with me. Our game got canceled on Saturday night, so we went to the Buckingham Brown and Nichols football game, and there was a woman in the stands yelling to the team, "You don't eat if you don't win."
Ooh.
That was her motivation. What do you think of that?
The whole team?
No, she was
She's gonna dictate meals for the whole team?
she was just yelling from the crowd. You don't eat if you don't win. And I was like, well, that's pretty harsh.
It's one thing to say that in the car ride home from the rink.
Yeah.
but, like in public. Yeah.
Yeah, she was yelling it. They did not win. So that whoever her son is didn't eat.
He's hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. There were some big
Check
boys,
him out.
man. Did you ever go to a high school football game?
Not recently, no.
Okay. I don't know if I don't. These kids are humongous, huge, 6'2", 240 pounds. I'm like, I don't remember 3 kids that size when I was in high school. Never mind 8 of them.
Is this ISL?
Yeah,
I've heard is the ISL football really good now?
it is. They made a push maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago to switch to not just be a hockey league and build the football. And they've done a great job. Like BB&N, Milton Academy, Lawrence Academy. They all have Thayer Academy. They all have very good football now. But these kids are just enormous. And actually, there's a kid on the team from Howe's Neck.
No kidding.
Yeah. Max Van Tassel. We'll give him a little shout out right
What
now.
a name.
Incredible name. My daughter Annabelle is going to be devastated when I tell her. But anyway, he's from Howe's Neck, and Marc grew up in Quincy, so I had to make that connection. Couple more things, and then we'll get into Marc. And I'd like to get your opinion on one of these. But so the new number one fan, or challenging for the number one fan, is Danielle LaRocco. Danielle LaRocco runs the Breakers. Her daughter and my daughter go to school together. She runs Bay State Hockey League, not the Breakers. She's the former general manager of the Boston Pride, which is the women's professional hockey team in Boston, and she's vying for the number one fan spot. So, Doris, you better up your game. Danielle is nipping at your heels. She sent me text and calling me to tell me how much she enjoyed the show. So I appreciate that. What about
a non-family member?
Yeah.
She doesn't even have to
Nope.
tell you she likes it.
No.
The surprise on his face.
She's not obligated to like the show. So I watch a show. Speaking of television shows, I watch a television show called Aerial America on the Smithsonian Channel. Have you ever seen this show?
I have not.
Have I talked about this show?
No.
Okay. So this is a show. It's such an old man show, but essentially it's a flyover of every state. And they fly over the state and they tell you the history of the state, and if they were doing Massachusetts, they would fly over Harvard. This is Harvard University. It's the oldest college, blah, blah, blah. They would fly over the State House. They would fly over whatever. They'd fly over Cape Cod. They'd fly over all the significant, and they tell the history of it, right? Oh, this is the Lexington Green where the Civil War started. So they do it for every state. And I was watching, and I think it's Wyoming. Where are the Teton Mountains?
Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, right? So they were talking about Jackson Hole and how it started, and the town of Jackson, and then down in Jackson Hole, and then these guys created the Jackson Hole ski resort. But do you know what so they're called the Teton Mountains, right?
Yep.
Do you know what Teton means?
Are you not?
Do you know what Teton means?
I don't.
It's the best part of the show. It means breasts in French. The Teton Mountains, and they named the biggest one the Grand Teton.
That's correct.
Is that amazing that it's stuck? Those mountains are named after breasts. It's French. Must have had some French settlers come in and the Tetons.
I mean,
right?
Nothing more deceptive than an obvious clue, right?
Right? I mean,
Tetons.
Teton.
What could it mean? No idea.
No clue. The Grand Tetons. Aerial America. It's on Smithsonian Channel. And then the last thing, and actually, the last thing, and then we'll get into Marc. And I'd like to get your opinion as a man. This was a conversation that we had at lunch last week. Nick in our office is getting married, and I gave him 2 Patriot tickets. Well, I didn't give them to him. Neil Cohen of Barsh and Cohen, shout out to Neil, gave Nick 2 tickets. And Nick decided to take his fiancée to the Patriots game. How do you feel about that, Marc? Be honest now. Our listeners rely on us for advice.
Is she a big sports fan?
No.
Root beer, is she a sports fan?
No.
Not a sports fan.
Okay, so that doesn't happen after the wedding. That's a pre-marriage move.
So you're saying, so you would have done it. You would have gone with it.
I'm not saying I would have done it, but I understand.
Okay. And you think it's pre-marriage, but he's getting married like next month. He's got that locked up. It's not like
in. Yeah.
It's a tough one, see? You can say it. I would have, my position was that if nobody else could go, I would have taken Marlene. That's what my position was. But Marlene wouldn't, I don't know, she wouldn't want to go. But I don't know. I felt like he needed to. That's the exact time. You're about to get married, right? He's up there doing wedding stuff this weekend. Like last weekend to me was like perfect opportunity. Grab a buddy, go cook out, barbecue, and watch the Patriots.
He loves her.
I understand. And I love my wife.
It's his best friend.
I understand that. I get it.
Yeah, but he's like, he's got his groomsmen right now. He's pre-marriage. They're in close contact about the suit and all the other stuff they got to do and all the money they got to lay out. Maybe he didn't want to alienate and have to choose one.
Oh.
So he made the easy choice and said, I'm going to pick my wife.
Also, maybe because
That's
he's in contact with them. So if this were years out, he hadn't seen them in a bit, it'd be a nice way to.
That's a good take on it.
Yeah.
I like that take.
He's got to take his crew, keep his crew happy.
Yeah, he didn't want to alienate. So why'd you take Jimmy? You should have taken me. That's
Yeah.
that's bull crap. Huh.
I'm going to Rochambeau for this, or no, I'll just take my fiance.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yeah, it's easier. I don't know that was the reason, but that's what he should have told me. That's definitely wasn't the
Right.
reason. Yeah, he definitely should have said that.
Definitely should have.
Root Beer, what's going on in your life? Got anything new over there?
Nothing new. No.
No?
No.
Wow, that's exciting.
Same old, same old.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
She moved in with her boyfriend recently. How long has it been?
It was our 1-year anniversary.
Not of living together.
No.
Of dating?
Of dating.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. When?
On Tuesday.
Wow, did you do something special?
Went to dinner.
Oh, where'd you go? The
Davio's.
Berkeley House of Pizza?
Boondocks.
They live in Berkeley, Mass. Yeah, exactly.
Sat down.
Taunton Way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That's what
Dighton? Is Dighton down there?
I think so. I don't really know what's
Freetown?
Freetown.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Lakeville.
Yeah, some real great.
Hard hitting towns.
So did you go to the
Bustling
you go to the
city.
Davio's in town or the Davio's in Braintree?
In Foxborough.
Oh, God.
Has your show
Are you
done-
listening to yourself right now? Are you listening to what is happening in your life? Or are you just blind to it? 1 year anniversary in Foxborough.
Patriots place.
Johnny, come on, buddy. Get it together. Jeez, he couldn't even take you in town.
He's not a big city guy.
I know. He's a Berkeley guy.
He's a Berkeley
He's a state
guy.
trooper. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah, he's the best.
We make fun of him a little bit on the show. But
Do you think your favorite TV show is going to do an aerial overview of
Berkeley. Big tour guy.
yeah, this is where nothing happens.
Here's a field.
I don't think
Here's a
there's
bog.
even one
Here's another
streetlight.
field.
Here's another bog.
I don't think there's one street light.
But Duxbury only has one street light. The town I live in only has one street light. Down by the Legion. That's it.
Yeah, nothing.
We needed a couple more. All right. Well, that's enough about us and me. Let's get into you, Mark. Marc Glennon. Mark with a C. So let's just start there. Like, why the C?
I have no idea. And let me tell you what a pain in the ass it's been my entire life. Nobody can get it right. Nobody cares to get it right.
It's more German than it is, American, I guess, right?
It's like more French. And we're not, the Glennons have nothing where, Glennon's an Irish last name. My mom's family's from Nova Scotia. Like, no idea where the C came from. But
So your mom and dad just dropped it on you. Mark with a C.
just dropped it on me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick story.
That's why you're here.
Okay. At Boston College, we are going down my whole life. Every trophy, every hockey jacket, anything.
See how I
that's
just dropped every trophy I won, all those trophies.
Tons of trophies. Tons of participation trophies where they engrave your name on them. Everything always came back with a K. So I get to the point where I'm freshman in college and I've just given up. And we're going to do this event down in Annapolis and they buy these cool BC color rugby shirts and they're going to put everyone's name on the sleeve.
Are you playing a sport?
It's for sailing.
It's the sailing.
It's a
Okay.
sailing team. The big boat sailing team.
Yep.
Whatever. It's a sport technically. It's
a sport.
It's in the Olympics.
It's a sport. It's absolutely a sport.
So I was like, you know what? They're going to get it wrong. Don't bother. Just leave it blank. Just don't even put a name on. It's fine. Shirt comes back, and I not
It says blank.
monogrammed in cursive on the sleeve, blank.
I wish I had known that. I would have called you blank for the rest of your life.
It was. I just
That's amazing.
hung my head and walked away. Gave people a lot of entertainment at the regatta, though.
That is amazing.
Yep.
Blank. So who do you grow up in Quincy with?
You know,
At the house. Who's at the house?
who's at the house?
Yeah.
I have an older sister, Jill, is 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
That's it. And then my mom, my dad.
They're not in the
Four.
same house in Quincy, right? That I used to go to.
No. God, probably 15 years ago, they moved down to Onset, which is part of Wareham.
Yeah. So what's crazy, like I growing up on the South Shore, right? You meet a lot of people from Quincy. I would say that you were not your typical Quincy kid because of your interest, right? You played hockey, obviously, but you were a big sailor, right?
Sailing, skiing, yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't, and this is no slight on anybody from Quincy, but sailing is not in my brain a typical Quincy activity, although Quincy is on the water. So how do you get into sailing?
So the story goes, you'll love this. My dad was walking out of the house. My sister and I were little. My dad was walking out of the house on a Saturday morning with a set of golf clubs to go golf for the day.
Yeah.
And I think my mom...
No cell phones, no nothing.
My mom looked at him and said, this isn't going to work.
Really?
We need a family activity.
Yeah.
And I guess when he was he grew up in Chelsea till he was 10, and then this is my dad, and then Quincy, and two non-exact, sailing hotbeds.
Right.
But he had done some sailing and he enjoyed it. He said, well, why don't we do this? We joined the little yacht club at the end of our street. They bought a sailboat, and that's what we did. So I grew up at the club.
What's that? Quincy Shore? What was it called?
Squantum Yacht Club.
Squantum Yacht Club.
Right on the boulevard there. There's two. There's Squantum Yacht Club and then Wollaston Yacht Club.
Yeah, and what was the? I was trying to describe it to somebody. What was the nightclub that was right there?
Nostalgia, aka Nasties.
Yeah.
And then it became the Beachcomber, I think, and
then it went out of business.
Oh yeah, the Comer.
Mm-hmm.
But you were only like 2 streets away from that. You were like 2 streets away from that yacht club, right?
Yeah, I grew up 2 blocks from the beach. And when we were really younger, there was at the end of Beach Street, there was a big bowling alley, like old school double-decker bowling alley.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was cool. And that was kind of like in between the 2 yacht clubs, yeah.
And what area? What's that? Is that Squantum that you're in?
That's Wollaston.
That's Wollaston.
Yeah. If
Okay.
you go to the end of the boulevard by the Donkeys, not that that's exactly a great landmark.
Right, because it's 1,000 of
There's
them.
a million of them. But if you head toward Boston, go to the end, take a right. That peninsula out there by past Marina Bay, that's Squantum.
That's Squantum. I actually Rose, my Rose has a friend out there, and I had to drive out there and pick her up a couple Fridays ago. It's a nice little area out there, Squantum.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool little spot. So how old are you when you get into sailing?
I think my parent, I was, from the minute I stepped on a boat, I was super into it.
Yeah.
Drawing sailboats. I was a total boat nerd, still am.
Yep.
But you couldn't join the sailing program until you were 8. My parents snuck me in when I was 7.
Such a Quincy move.
Yeah, such a Quincy move.
We're just going to change this birth certificate real quick.
Yeah. Problem was you had to take a swim test. And I've never been a big swimmer. I do it.
I'm not, yeah.
And
I swim for survival.
Yeah. So like the swim test at
You know what I mean?
Club, yeah. Was in like June in Quincy Bay.
Oh,
Jellyfish, pollution,
12 degrees.
freezing cold water. You had to get in. So I was like, I'm out.
I'm
I'm
not doing
it. Like I refused.
Immediately no.
I refused to do it. I was like, I'll wait till I'm 8.
Yeah.
I'll pass.
I'm good here. You can erase the little line on my birth certificate. I'm not going to do that.
Oh.
Yeah, swimming is not my thing. Yeah, if I'm in the water, I'm swimming to get out of the water, right? I'm not like enjoying myself on a swim.
I love a good swim.
Really?
I do.
Yeah, not me.
Let's define swim.
I'll take
were we doing laps or just like at World's End, we'll jump off the boat and float?
A little bit of both.
That's swimming to me.
I'm more of a floater than a swimmer, I guess.
Yeah, even if I'm like on the boat and I have to get in the water for whatever reason, it's in, do my thing, and get out. I'm not staying in there.
Pee in the water? Is that what you're saying?
In the ocean, yeah, I do. I don't pee in pools though, because someone told me one day it would turn purple around me.
Oh my God, that was a TV show, Pete and Pete.
Really?
It happened, yeah.
And that actually happened? Someone peed and it turned purple?
In the show, yeah.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
That's very embarrassing.
Of all like childhood urban legends, if you will. That's got to be one of the most sustained one. Like there's some chemical that will create a ring around you or turn purple. I mean,
could you imagine the level of embarrassment though? You're like, oh, I'm dead in the water, pun intended.
Hey, the fear of that works great. I mean, most people are not willing to take that risk.
I'm not taking that risk. But in the ocean, I pee in the ocean, yeah. I think everybody pees in the ocean.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's the salt. It takes care of itself. Right? So, not only are you sailing when you're coming up, you're also playing hockey.
Playing hockey, yeah.
Which is, that's a Quincy thing, right? You guys always had really good youth hockey teams.
We did. I was very lucky to play with some very good players, particularly when I got a little bit older.
Yeah.
When I was peewee, I used to play for this league called St. Anne's up at Shea Rank. It was kind of like I wouldn't even say glorified. It was like a house league.
Yeah.
Right. And then I begged my parents to go to Quincy Youth Hockey, and I thought I was like basically going to the show. I was so excited. And I went and tried out, and I was fat and slow and like barely skate backwards. I was like third line house defenseman. And then Pee-wee, I was on the Pee-wee C team, and we had this kid Dewey Holmes, who was a monster. From House Neck, and he had an absolute missile of a slap shot as a Pee-wee.
Yeah. Big,
long, Easton aluminum, the gold one.
Yeah, I know the stick.
Freaking Montreal blade stuffed in the bottom. And our goalie got hurt, and nobody would get in net.
Because of his shot?
Because of his shot.
Or just in general?
No, because of his shot.
Yeah.
They're like, no. And by the way, you're using like Quincy Youth Hockey issue goalie pads, which is essentially like a placemat on your chest and a couple couch cushions on your legs, right? Leather. I mean,
heavy.
Awful.
Yeah.
Horsehair stuffed in them. So I was like, all I wanted to do is try to make one of these travel teams. So I was like, oh, this is it. I'll do anything. I will get in front of that shot with this terrible equipment.
If that's what it takes.
If that's what it takes.
How about that for a little nudge?
Right?
Yeah, that's it. Billy Coughlin.
Yeah, I know Billy.
So Billy used to live around the corner from me, and we were buddies. We'd hang out, play street hockey all the time. And he had this picture on his dresser, and it was Billy was very good. He was on the Might A team or something, and Quincy Youth, the A teams all went to Lake Placid.
Yep.
And he had this picture framed on his dresser that was his team marching in a parade in Lake Placid.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, I have to do that.
Yeah, I got to get there.
I will stand in front of any shot, stand in front of Ally Afraidy if that's what it takes.
I'm going to Lake Placid, and I'm marching in a parade.
I'm going to Lake Placid. It's like, that was my goal in life.
So you switched to goalie.
I switched to goalie, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And I had a little bit of success at the C level, and then I went to try out for Bantams the next year and made the A team.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, it was a big jump. And they basically just said, look, you're not ready, but if you're willing to like put the work in and go to some camps and go to Cleon Daskalaska's goalie school, again, I was like, does this mean we go to Lake Placid? Because I'll go anywhere you want.
I will go anywhere to go to Lake Placid.
That's right. That was it.
So you go from Pee-wee C player to Bantam A goalie in 1 year.
No, I played full time on the C team.
Okay.
And by the way, I have to take a step back here. I mean, you have like former NHL hockey players on here talking about their careers. I'm talking about my Quincy's hockey.
And by the way, this is more interesting than that.
The joke's on me.
The joke is on you. 100%.
No, I played that was my first year. Second year, I played a full year on the C team, and we went to the state finals, and we lost, but I had a good showing apparently. Mm-hmm. And then the next year, I made the team, and we had a bunch of those. You were talking about the Archbishop Williams
91 team.
91 team. So there, we had a bunch of those kids on this Bantam A team who were really good from Quincy. They were like sophomores at the time, but they were playing on the team.
Yep.
So again, I got kind of right place, right time. Was super lucky to play with Brian Sullivan.
Good players.
Yeah, good players. Like Barkis, these dudes.
But you're still sailing and somehow working and skiing in this whole situation?
Yeah. I mean, look, that was the point where skiing started taking a back seat.
Yeah. Had to.
Not that we were, we'd go to North Conway, a few weekends, go to Sunny River for a week here and there. Wasn't like we were in race programs or anything like that, but yeah. And now I'm experiencing that as we speak with my kids. Right? Skiing's definitely taking a backseat. It's always been a passion of mine, and
yeah. So we skied. Mark and I skied a ton in college. We were like ski buddies, and we would essentially pack the car at 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday, drive up, ski all day, and then drive home. I mean, there were some nights where we stayed over, but for the most part, we did the day trips.
Drive home.
Yeah.
Get home and then go out.
And go out.
Somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Because we're in college. We were juniors in
didn't,
college.
Yeah. It didn't matter. We could go forever. But before we get there, so you play, do you sail? Is there a sailing team at Quincy High?
No. I went to North Quincy.
Oh, that's
High.
right. Are you a Red Raider or president?
Red Raider.
Red Raider.
Are they still called the Red Raiders?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is it allowed?
I don't know if that's allowed. I mean, the Braintree is still the Womps.
Okay.
So maybe they still are the Red Raiders.
I mean, a lot of controversy over the North Quincy mascot, the Yaku.
Yeah.
Ironically, the face of it's of a shorter, traditional Indian in headdress.
Sure.
But the face, I don't know if you know this.
I don't.
Fun fact: the face of the Yaku is actually an Armenian dentist from Quincy named Dr. Yakubian.
Are you kidding me right now?
No. Little fun fact for you here, Danny.
Well, how did his face get on the...
Somebody drew it like a long time ago and then drew his face and his nose and his whatever, his likeness, and then put the Indian headdress on, which I think is pretty badass.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so there's been a lot of controversy over that, but at the end of the day, it's actually a picture of a Armenian dentist.
Dressed up for Halloween. Pretty much is what the...
Pretty much.
What was his last name?
Yakubian.
Yakubian. That's a great last name.
That is a great last name.
So Armenian.
I used to go to. We have a friend, another mutual friend, Bob Arasian, who we went to BC with, and his parents, and now his brother owns a store called Eastern Clothing in Watertown. They still are just a really fine clothing, men's clothing. They dress all the announcers for the Red Sox, and they got a lot of high-end clients. But I used to go over there because, one, I like to see Bob and those guys, but they had an Armenian phone book, and I used to just sit there for hours and read the names out loud. Be like, Peter Patapanian, Ari Shakujian, like all these crazy... one kid's name was actually Rafi Armenian. His last name was actually Armenian. Rafi Armenian. That'd be like being, Jimmy Irish.
Keep it simple.
I love that.
Right? That's a great name.
Jimmy Irish is a great name.
So you play hockey. So how do you keep your sailing up then in high school? You just with the sailing team?
Just more in the summer, but you got to remember back then hockey was like a seasonal sport.
Yeah.
At least for most
of us. For all of us almost,
It was a seasonal sport.
Yeah. October to March, and that was it.
I mean, even the best kids I played with barely played, didn't even play club. A kid named Doug Nolan from Quincy.
Yeah.
Went on to have a good AHL career. I mean, he played for the Junior Bruins, the Quebec Pee Wee tournament team. But I don't think anybody on my team played club. So it was very much a seasonal, you go to practice on Thursday nights at 9:00 and then you got a game or two on the weekends in the Greater Boston League at BU or something. But when April came, it was on to baseball
or whatever.
Wherever else.
Lacrosse wasn't even around really.
As I think later, kind of mid high school, there was more playing at least and this is how I remember. I remember playing a little bit in the summer in Pilgrim, here and there.
I remember playing. The Pilgrim had a summer league. You played Europa Cup up at Babson, and there was one other, maybe hockey night in Boston or something like that, and that was it. But it wasn't like it is now. But how do you? At some point you got to start deciding on colleges, right? And so how do you end up at Boston College? What's that story?
Very simple. So my mom was she was a florist. She was in the flower business. And she, one of her big dreams for us was she wanted to go away to four-year college and live there. And, that was her Lake Placid, if you will.
For her.
For her.
Yeah.
She wanted us, my sister and I, to have the opportunity to do that. And she went and worked. She started as basically an admin at BC Law School. And at the time, if you worked there full time, like you yourself, the employee, could go back to school and get your degrees, and your spouse and your kids could go there. It wasn't completely free, but it was pretty damn good.
Right.
So she went and worked there for a long time and kind of worked her way up over there. And that, it's like, if you want to go to 4-year school, like, better get into BC.
Yeah, because that's where you're going.
That's where you're going.
Yeah. So you got in.
I got in. I got in, kinda.
I mean, you were there.
I was there. So I got in, but at the time, and I don't know if they still do this, my grades were decent. My test scores were decent.
That's where I was, middle of the road. I'm not getting in now.
No way.
No way.
But so they said, look, you're kind of on the fence. We want you to participate in what we call the challenge program. So you had to take 2 summer school classes and get a minimum of a B- in each. And if you did, you're in. If you don't, you're out.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So
summer school.
It was.
You had to go to summer school.
It was. Yeah, but you know what? It was a hilarious bunch of people that I met.
Really?
Timmy Lewis.
Oh man.
Andy McLaughlin.
Oh, so there's a whole crew.
Beth O'Brien. Yeah.
You're outing all these people of having to go to summer school.
Well,
right
some of them were there on their own free will to get like a leg up.
Yeah, that wasn't you.
That wasn't Timmy.
I don't think
that was Timmy.
Some people were trying to get a leg up. You were just trying to get a leg in.
I was trying to get 10 fingers from my buddy.
You were hanging on the bottom of the window trying to get your left leg. Just push my leg up. I'll be fine.
Yeah. So so I got in. And the rest is history. I mean,
so it was like the first day or the first week or whatever. We were in the same dorm, and I had decorated my room, and however I had decorated my room, and he walks by, sees it, and stops. I remember he walked by, looked in the room, stopped, came back, and he's like, "Hey, where you from?" And I'm like, "I'm from Hanover." He's like, "I'm from Quincy." I'm like, okay, where are we going? Where's the next stop on this train? And that was it. That's how we met, pretty much, right?
There's a 90% chance I was in a pair of jean shorts.
100%.
When I was having that conversation.
Yeah, and a T-shirt, untucked.
Probably Gerbeau jean shorts.
Yep. And that was freshman year, and we didn't live together until senior year.
Correct. We didn't live together directly under the same. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Until senior.
But so you get to BC. I didn't know, how long were you on the sailing team?
I was on the sailing team for just freshman year.
Just 1 year.
Just freshman year, believe it or not. Yeah. Interests change when you get to college a little bit. I was down in, I'll never forget this. I was in Mystic, Connecticut at some second tier regatta, staying at somebody's parents' house, and the dad's listening to the AM radio. Meanwhile, BC beats Notre Dame, and my buddies are ripping the goalposts down at Conti, at the field.
I was there.
Yeah, and I said, and this is before cell phones, and someone calls and was like, "It's mayhem, it's the best night ever." And I was sitting there with a couple of dorks, and I'm like, "I'm gonna reevaluate this program."
Totally geeking out over sailcloth, and everyone's ripping it up at BC.
That was kind of the end of it. And I also, there were some other things that came into play, but I loved it, kept doing it.
Yeah.
In the summer, still do it a little bit. Kids are super into it, but for me, I was like, I'd rather just be around. I want to be on campus.
So one of the biggest things, and this comes up a lot in these conversations, is I'm having these conversations with lots of girls that I coach at the high school level, U16, whatever, that want to go on and play at the next level. And I'm like, just be prepared for the work that it takes, not necessarily to get there, the amount of work it takes to stay there and the things you're going to sacrifice. And it's like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth it? And I'm having these conversations with my Annabelle now, and she's like, I want to enjoy college. I want to go, and I want to be there when X school beats Y school and they tear the goalposts down, and it's one of those sort of lifetime memories that you have. I don't want to be sitting in a locker room somewhere staring at the same girl for 4 years, and I can't blame her. The hockey dad in me and the hockey player in me is like, well, you got to try and play at the highest level, and that. But I think I'm coming to the realization that that's not necessarily the best route for everybody. Some people, that's what they want to do, right? And you can see, as I'm coaching, I can see the girls that want to go that route and the amount of work they're putting in versus the girls that may have been on the level as far as talent level goes, that don't want to put in the work. And these girls are taking off talent-wise, but are they having the same social experience and same high school and eventually college experience that they want to have and want to remember, and are they going to regret looking back? Some will, some won't. But I kind of had a similar experience later on in my life with golf, because I obviously I was playing in all of the local tournaments like New England Am, USAM. I only played USAM once, Mass Am, Mass Mid Am, all these tournaments, right? And I would have to go away for like 3 days. And I'd be up in New Hampshire in some podunk hotel playing golf. And as my kids started to get older, they were like, well, where you going? They're 4 or 5, 5 and 3 and 1 or whatever they are. And I'm gone for 3 days in the middle of the week up playing golf. And I remember I played one day and I think I shot 72 and I was like 7 shots back. And I'm like, okay, now I'm sitting in a hotel room by myself. I'm there for 2 more days. I miss my kids. I miss my wife. And I can't even come close to competing with these guys. Like, what am I doing? And that was the end of it. I never played another sort of regional event after that. But sort of a same type of thing. Like, what are you missing? What are the sacrifices that you're giving up in order to pursue this dream? And you got to make sure you want that dream, whatever that dream is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an elite talent, or you're just incredibly passionate about it, I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that are willing to dedicate themselves and give up those other things.
Yeah.
To pursue the dream. That's incredible. It's tough if you're, lukewarm about certain things, and you have to make some decisions about what's more important, or what do I want to do? Are there going to be any regrets at the end of this? You get talking about college, you get 4 years there, and
and one of your memories is the memory that you missed out on.
Yeah. Right.
So that's telling to me. That's a very telling story. So our paths cross a bunch because one of my coaches that coaches Annabelle's team was actually your coach in high school, Tommy Benson. Good old Tommy. You guys didn't see eye to
eye. We did not see eye to eye, but I mean, look, I take most of the blame there. My interest had also sort of changed at that time.
So Tommy tells a very funny story. So when Benny and I have been coaching together for 10 years, and he's one of my very good friends. And when he found out the connection here, I started grilling him. I'm like, what was he like in high school? Because I didn't know him, right? And he said the same thing. He was like, well, he didn't, he was pretty good, and then he didn't play much his senior year. I think he was really, and Benny's got kind of a dry delivery. He's like, I think he was a little bit upset with me as the coach. And I said, oh, why? He said, well, I didn't play him. And I said, well, why didn't you play him? He said, well, his interests had changed. He said it a little bit different, but he said your interests had changed. But and that's life, right? That's absolutely life. So no more sailing at BC. And then we connect. That's when we really started skiing, was sophomore into junior year. And we probably skied not as much senior year, but those sophomore and junior years, we skied
a lot.
I mean, we spent a lot of time in cars. When we went to Killington, we used to stay at a place called the Happy Bear Motel. It was
still there,
$80 a night or something. But one of my funniest stories is the day we went to Mad River Glen. Do you remember that day?
I do. The raining day?
The raining day. So we go to Mad River Glen, and this isn't really a nudge, but it's just a funny story. We go to Mad River Glen, and it's raining. And I'm like, I'm skiing. Mark, I drove here. I'm skiing this mountain. Now, Mad River Glen is a very old school mountain. It doesn't have very advanced lifts. It's very slow. I mean, it was
single chairlift.
Yeah, it was.
You sit by yourself.
It's like this. I mean, you're on the chair, and it's it's a grind. So I ski all day. We're old enough now. We're 21 years old. I ski all day, and Mark spends the day in the bar. And has drinks and drinks and drinks and shooting the shit, introducing me to everybody when I come in, and we have this grand old time. And we decided that we were going to write a book on the way home. Do you remember?
We did.
Yeah.
Yep.
About our adventure.
Super interesting for everybody.
We were going to write a book. We had it all mapped out. We spent 3 hours on the car ride home. Because I drove up. Usually the deal was I would drive up and Mark would drive home. But I had to drive both ways that time. I was a little pissed about that, truth be told. That was a lot of driving for me.
Yeah. And you don't like driving over bridges, as I recall.
I don't like driving over bridges.
A fun fact about Danny.
Yeah.
Because bridges freeze first.
That's right. Bridges. We ended up in a ditch one day. Well, we had some adventures.
We did. So just quickly going back to the I feel like I need to add a little context to the Mad River story.
Okay.
we get there in the morning and we're fired up to go skiing and go up and look, I love skiing as much as the next person. My passion for the sport and the gear
is unmatched.
Far outweighs my ability.
Yeah.
Let's just put that
you're
out
a good
there
skier.
as well. But I have these moments when it's just, if I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
And that day it was like slushy.
It's gross.
We're on old 200 centimeter skis. It was gross. And again, it's Mad River, when it's good, it's incredible. When it's bad, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't feeling it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go in the bar, have some lunch, have a drink, and see how I feel. So I sit down, and next to me is a woman with a baseball hat on, and it says Rizzo on the hat.
Yep.
And she introduced herself to me as, wait for it, Rizzo from New Jersey. Thank you for the stereotype. And Rizzo and I proceed to sit there and drink something disgusting, rum and pineapple or rum and orange juice or something. And we had 50 of them. And
by the way, he was of age, over 21 years of age, and not driving a car.
Correct.
For the record.
This is senior college, I would say. And I think the bartender, when you came in, you're all covered in wet
rain,
snow,
a wet dog.
Didn't he look at you and was like, give you the you done sign for your buddy?
Yeah.
I think it's the only time in my life I've ever been shut off.
But you weren't angry. You were just a happy, in a happy mood. And I see my whole thought process was like, I'm at Mad River Glen and I'm skiing it. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care what is going on. I'm here and I'm skiing. And I skied by myself in the rain, cursing him the whole time for sitting down there having the time of his life. Because I would come in for lunch. I'd come in, for whatever, mid-morning. He's in there hooping it up. Woo! And I'm like, I'm skiing. Right? Nobody's forcing me to ski except for me, right? The stubbornness of me. Back in for lunch, back in for post, and then we had to leave. And then he's like, we should write a book.
Yeah, then I probably fell asleep.
No, you lasted the whole time. I think we stopped and got some coffees, and I think we probably went out that night.
We had many adventures we don't have to get into today.
We had a great time skiing. We would drive up in the morning and ski all day and drive home and then go out and have a great time. And so, but eventually, senior year we lived together, and then we graduate. And you go where from there?
So I was teaching sailing on Nantucket during that time.
Ahoy polloi.
It's pretty good. Free housing, free food. It's hard to refuse. I was the adult/private instructor, and I did some other stuff. Yeah,
this is giving me Dirty Dancing vibes.
Yeah,
Nantucket Yacht Club.
Yeah, Nantucket Yacht Club.
Right, that's right down by town, right?
Right down by town, right next to the steamship.
Yeah.
Ferry terminal. But they put you up right there on the property, and it was incredible. And Joey Aliardi was working there. Matt Murphy was out there. We had a crew, and then Pizzara and Half and all those guys were at a different house working on fishing boats and stuff. So there was a whole crew of,
guys out there,
guys we knew, and it was great. It was a really good time. And
how many summers do you do that?
I did it for 3 summers, and then didn't really feel like I had scratched the itch enough. So a few of us, Joey, Half, myself, Steve-O, moved out to Aspen for the winter.
Yeah, I went up to Aspen.
We did.
I was going to law school.
Yeah. You were going to law school.
And playing golf.
You came and visited, though.
I did. I went out to Aspen.
But I want to be crystal clear about something here. Like, I was not on scholarship at this point.
No, you were working.
Life scholarship.
No, you
we
were
working.
Yeah.
A couple jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, fun jobs. Ski shop, in the rental shop, working at a bar a couple nights a week.
Yeah, you were paying your own way.
Paying my own way. When I get out there, I had no health insurance. My parents were like, you better figure it out. So, like, one of the requirements for finding a job was like, hey, do you guys offer health insurance?
Yeah.
And they did, luckily. Skiing without health insurance is not a good
That's
idea.
a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. But, yeah, so I was kind of like in retirement for a little bit there. It's pretty good. But you came out and had a great... Didn't you come out for New Year's Eve?
I did.
Ooh.
1990. It turned 1999.
It did. It turned 1999. I went Aspen in 99, and then I went Vegas in 2000. Yeah. Those were the days.
Good run.
Yeah, solid run. So at some point you got to get a job, like a real job. And what's the nudge that leads to that?
So my cousin's husband was like a manager up at Putnam Investments up in Andover.
Yep.
And he was, it's kind of entry level, shagging phone calls that were coming in. And this is like this is like literally, I started in January 2000. The market, .com thing is still going. The market's screaming.
Everybody's making money.
Putnam funds were like, their growth funds were like top of the charts. So he gets me an interview. And apparently he's friends with the HR person who interviews me. And I'm, a complete dumb. I do zero prep for this. Okay. This woman looked at me. She sized me up in about 3 seconds. She's like, do you know what a mutual fund is? I was like, nope. No idea. I'm like, this is finance, right? Yeah. So she very nicely basically gave me the answers to that. She's like, okay, well, here's you're going to meet this person, this person, and this person. And like, let me give you some prep.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I mean, look, you're really honestly shagging inbound phone calls.
Yeah, you're not.
Yeah, pretty entry level. But even for that, I was like, wow, this is a bit of a stretch.
I can't even get this entry level job.
I was like working at the Wilderness House on Comm selling skis and ski boots. So I get the job, and it was awful. I mean, you had to be up there at 7:30 in the morning in Andover. But great group. Met a ton of great people.
Yeah,
friends to this. A lot of them friends to this day. Learned a ton, but man, it was a grind.
Yeah,
total grind.
Sweatshop.
So that was my entry into. What was amazing is like, I start January of 2000. Market screaming until it wasn't in March, and then like the .com thing burst.
Yeah,
and I basically spent 4 years up there getting yelled at by people on the phone.
Really? Because you're losing all their money.
Yeah, I mean, the
Not
market
you,
went
but,
sideways, and
yeah.
Everybody was just it was tough, but learned a ton.
So, and then you go where? At some point, you go to Connecticut. I remember.
I did. Buddy of mine's uncle invited me to come join his. He had a private wealth team at UBS down in Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
So I went from kind of marketing. Selling kind of our mutual fund products to financial advisors to becoming a financial advisor.
Got it.
So I was down there, joined this team. This is Hef's uncle Donnie.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an animal. He joined Payne Weber the day after he graduated college in like 1968, and he was still there. I mean,
right.
UBS, bought Payne, whatever.
Little different mindset.
Yeah.
He wasn't skiing and selling boots at the Wilderness House. No. He was working.
That's correct. Like from day one.
Right.
And built a great business and invited me to come down and join him. So I was down there for a couple years. I had a ton of fun. Stanford's cool, good city. It's right outside New York City, obviously.
Yeah.
About an express train, and it was a blast.
Now, where do you meet your wife?
I met her while I was living in Stanford.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
She was living in Boston.
How about that for a nudge?
Yeah.
Right? That guy gets in the job in Stanford, and then he meets his wife.
Well, I didn't meet her in Stanford. I met her through friends.
You're living in Stanford at the time.
I'm living in Stanford, so we did long distance for like 6 months. But buddy of mine, this guy Doug Feeney, was living in Boston, and there was this crew of guys that went to Denison in Ohio, and she went to Denison.
Got it.
So kind of met friend of friend, and then we were at Doug Doug's wedding, Doug and Caroline's wedding down in Lynchburg, Virginia.
How's that?
It's great. There was a wig store across the street from our hotel, and it was incredible.
Really?
Yes. So I bought a cool wig, and I don't know. She must have thought I was funny or something.
Picked up a wig.
Cool
Yeah.
wig.
Yeah. So I definitely did buy a wig down there. Yeah. So we sort of like we were both the timing was right. We were both single at this wedding, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was
And how long ago was that?
probably 2006.
So eventually you move back up and you take a job with, what's the name of the company?
GLG.
And that's where you were for 16 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. I left on the 20th of September. Took a few weeks for myself.
Did some things around the house. Went to Bed Bath and Beyond.
Oh, seriously, I've been to Bed Bath in the last couple weeks.
I have, in fact.
I have
Confirmed. Been to Bed Bath and Beyond.
Correct. Home Depot. Honestly, all of it. But and I start a new gig on Monday. But yeah, I was there for 16 and a half years. Now, there was a little gap there. So I left UBS. I wanted to get back to Boston, and my buddy Mike Downing's girlfriend at the time was working for a subprime lender called Home 123.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when subprime was cranking.
I mean, she was making money
Hand over fist.
hand over fist.
Yeah.
At this time.
So subprime, for those that don't know, is essentially, but back in what year was that? 07, 06, 07?
Yeah.
They were essentially making loans to people that didn't qualify for a conventional loan, right? You probably had lower credit, or you didn't have as much income, or whatever the case may be. And they were doing the subprime loans, which ended up being the whole sort of reason for the downfall in 2008, 2009 with the banking issue, was those subprime loans that were money lent to people that probably shouldn't have got the money based on values that probably weren't there.
Correct.
Yeah. It was a whole shell game that people were playing, and a lot of people got money that shouldn't have got money, and then they didn't have any money in the properties because they were doing essentially what they call 80-20s, right? So you're going to buy a house for $100,000. The bank would give you $80,000 in the first loan and $20,000 in the second loan, so you'd have 100% financing, right? So then when you lost your job or your income wasn't enough to support the loans to begin with, and things went bad, you had no problem walking away because you had no money. You had no money down. You had no skin in the game. So that's one of the things, for my crowd lending plug here, that's one of the things that we require of our borrowers, is to have some money in the game, have some skin in the game, so that if they walk away, it hurts. Not only does it hurt them to walk away, but it also gives us and our investors another layer of protection against a deal that goes bad. So there you go. Crowd lending can now pay for all the equipment.
Is this a commercial?
Crowd lending can now pay for everything. Okay.
So, great plug, by the way. Seamless.
Wow, money, right?
So just real quick, like
I'm getting so good at this.
let's just say I didn't put this like 2-month stint on my resume. So I go work for Home 123 is what it was called, and I'm not selling anything.
Yeah.
Right? Other people are selling stuff, and the guy who ran the office, his name was Bill, but he went by Dollar Bill. Okay. Wore a hat with a Ferrari symbol on it, drove a Porsche, and brand new Volvo S, had it all. Shiny toys everywhere.
Yeah, watches,
right?
shoes.
So Dollar Bill calls me into his office, and he's like, Mark, he's like, I got to be honest with you. Well, he didn't say that. He said, you're being too honest with people, and that's why you're not selling anything. You got to get them to the table, to the closing.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to tell them every detail. Now, I came from Series 7, 63, 60, license at Putnam, at UBS.
Regulations.
And just, I don't know, being a
compliance.
Trying to be like a good human being and not lie to people to their face.
In order to make money?
In order to make money. And yeah, he said, you're being too honest. Like, these other guys, they just get them to the closing table, and if something looks a little off, like, they'll just sign it anyway.
Yeah.
And I pushed back from the table, and I said, thanks, Bill. Thanks, Dollar Bill. I don't think this is for me.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was back then.
So we have, I don't mean this isn't another plug, but we have competitors that do that very thing. They tell a borrower it's going to cost X, and then they get to the closing table and it's going to cost Y, and that borrower can't get up and walk away because he's got a deposit down that he's going to lose if he doesn't close. I mean, it's the same game.
Yeah.
So you just got to be wary of those unscrupulous loan officers. That's it.
Incredibly sketchy. But anyway, so and then
So 16 years, you get married. During that time, you have a couple of kids, one of which is Hank's age. My Hank, they play on the same hockey team together, and now he's getting into sailing.
yeah, both of my kids are. My older son is obviously because he's older. He's ahead of my younger guy, but he's super into it.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's they sail these little boats called Optimus dinghies, and you go to some of these big regattas, and there's 200 boats out there. There's 200 of these kids in these little boats. They sail by themselves, one sail. They're incredibly technical, way too technical for a boat that's supposed to be a trainer for a young kid. But
Yep.
it's really neat to see like 9, 10, 12, 13-year-old kids like setting these things up. There's a lot of independence. Never mind they're up there sailing by themselves.
Right.
But it's just very cool. As a sailor myself, I think it's pretty cool. But it's really cool to see all these like young people kind of doing things on their own and managing themselves to some degree. And
Yeah, great life lessons, right? Preparation, right?
Yeah.
Problem solving.
Yeah.
Maintenance. I'm sure you got to take the boat down after it's done, right? You got to put it away the right way, or it's going to be a pain in the neck the next day. Lines get tangled, sails get messed up, all that type of stuff, right?
Tons of that.
Yeah.
Tons of that. And what's interesting, and pick a sport these days, right? And you probably never even think about sailing in this way, but there is if you go to Florida or even this thing we were at last weekend was in New Jersey, and the kids from Annapolis and California and whatever. It was a bigger one, but like people are super, super, super into it.
Yeah, I bet.
And like top kids are literally homeschooled to do this. We're talking like an 8-foot long sailing dinghy, and
Right.
these kids are let's call them 12, 13 years old, right? But you pick a sport.
Yeah, no, it goes on in every sport.
Equestrian,
Yep.
dance.
Dance, ballet. My Rose did ballet. Girls down the Cape are being homeschooled so that they can dance all day long.
Homeschooled. Yeah.
So they can dance and do ballet all day long.
So
Talk about missing out on some social
Right.
aspects of life.
Detrimental.
Yeah. And that's not a kid making the decision, right? That's not a 16, 17-year-old kid saying, hey, I want to go play Division I X. I don't want, that's a 12-year-old boy who's saying, his parents are saying, you're going to get homeschooled because you have sailing practice for 4 hours in the afternoon and we can't make it work with your regular school.
the kids probably love it because they don't sit in a classroom to some degree, but
what's the end game?
Exactly. So look,
You're going to be the Commodore of the local yacht club at some point?
I don't think that has anything to do with sailing talent. Yeah, so they're into it. I'm super into it. As you know, I love the gear.
Yeah.
There's plenty of gear to go around when it comes to, sailboats.
That's a nice little nudge from the father down to the kid, right? Gets him into sailing. Because sailing never was even, part of my life. I never would have introduced my kids to sailing, but it's the same thing with golf, right? I'm getting Hank into golf now. It's sort of the same. It's almost that little nudge as it trickles down through the family.
Right.
Well, I had to give him a pretty good nudge because he almost quit before he even started. Because he was
Ben
did, yeah. Because when it got windy, he was like nervous about the wind. Now my little guy was 10. He was out there since he was like 8, and he could care less. He was like almost oblivious, and he didn't care. But it bothered Ben when it got.
He got nervous out there.
Nervous. And look, I don't blame him. I remember being that age and being a little bit nervous too, like a lot of kids do. But it was, it was kind of like me with the swim test. Like he was almost like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I definitely bribed him a bit to stay with it.
What was the bribe?
I'm like, you're gonna get over the hump, and you're gonna love it. Trust me. Like,
so what was the bribe?
You're my kid. I bought him a sick boat.
Did you buy the boat for him or for you?
Well, I can't get in it 'cause it's too small, but
you can maintain it and you can do all. Yeah.
Yes.
Keep it in the garage all winter and rub it and
yeah,
wax it and fix it.
That is scary though. Having a windy day out there.
Yeah.
I got whacked in the head with a boom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Sailing.
She knows the lingo. Root beer's dialed in.
I did for summer. I was sailing in the Navy Yard.
Oh,
in
cool.
Charlestown.
Oh yeah, courageous.
Yeah.
I used to sail down there a little bit.
Yeah. That was the end of it.
Great program.
Oh really? That was
That was it.
done? You didn't go back out?
Didn't go back out. Did not go back out.
Yeah, a lot of the kids are less afraid of getting hit in the head, which is real. It's the tipping over piece until they tip over the first time and realize how actual, like, they think it's going to be like a car accident, and it's not. It's like very gentle, and they sort of like slide into the water. But like, that's scary as hell.
Sure.
And I don't, I get it. So anyway, I was just like, listen, you're going to get over this piece. Stick with it.
I'll buy you a new boat.
I'll buy you a sick boat.
You'll have the best boat, and you will do this.
Way above his ability at the time, but whatever.
We grew into it.
I grew into it.
So then Griff will get it. Griff will get it next.
No, Griff got one from Santa this past Christmas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
Do
unfortunately,
they name their boats?
No. It's not cool. Well, like once you get even to a touch older, like a lot of boats will have names on them, but you go to this, the top kids, the good kids don't have names on their boats.
So I think I'd name my boat
What would you name it?
Nudge.
Oh.
Of course. What else would I name it? What would you name your boat if you were going to name it?
Am I allowed to say what my name of my? So I had this boat called The Laser when I was a little bit older.
Yeah.
When I was like in my teens, and I called it Water Bong because I thought it made sense.
Okay, moving on from that story.
We're gonna get edited.
No, we're not gonna edit that one out. We're okay. We're okay. So you start a new job on Monday. That should be exciting.
Exciting, scary, not used to being the new guy.
Yeah.
You come from a place where you knew where the bathroom is and all the players and
you knew where the secret bathroom is in case you had a, you didn't want to do it right in the hallway. You could go upstairs or something.
Yeah. At Putnam, we would refer to that way back in the day because there was hundreds and hundreds of people in the building. If you could find blue water post like 10 o'clock, it was like hitting a scratchy.
Find that blue water.
Just pristine bowl.
Yeah. Nobody killed it yet. Well, Marc, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all the little nudges in your life that got you where you are. I appreciate how you're nudging your kids into some of the things that you like, whether it's skiing or hockey or sailing. And it was nice to find out some stuff. And one of my favorite parts of the show is find out some stuff about people that I've been longtime friends with that I don't know. And it's always nice to hear those stories. So, Root Beer, without further ado, if anybody needs anything out there, feel free to give me a call because everybody needs a nudge. Thanks, Marc.
Thanks for having me.